Most people think their limits are physical. They believe their body collapses first. But the truth is far more brutal. Your mind breaks long before your muscles do. You stop, not because you can't, but because your inner voice convinces you that you've reached the edge. That voice is the cage that keeps you fragile. Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated samurai who won more than 60 duels, understood this. He didn't become legendary because he was the strongest or the fastest, but because his mind was indestructible. He trained it until limits no longer dictated his actions. In this video, you will discover 6 principles from Musashi's philosophy that will forge your mind into something unbreakable. With them, you'll stop relying on motivation, stop surrendering to comfort, and finally become a version of yourself that no obstacle can destroy. And it all begins with the first principle: mastering the battlefield of your own thoughts. 1. Dominate the inner battlefield. Musashi understood that the sharpest blade was useless if the mind holding it was weak. He wrote often about the necessity of mastering thoughts before mastering technique. His time in isolation wasn't only about practicing sword cuts. It was about training his mind to remain calm under chaos. The true duel was always inside, against fear, hesitation, and the urge to waver. Imagine stepping into a duel where death waits for the slightest distraction. In those moments, anxiety kills faster than steel. Musashi knew that if his thoughts betrayed him, no physical skill could save him. That is why his inner silence was his greatest weapon. His calm presence on the battlefield unnerved opponents before swords ever crossed. Now look at modern life. Our duels are not fought with blades, but with deadlines, decisions, and constant noise. Most people crumble long before the challenge itself. Anxiety, worry, and mental chatter break them down. They blame the difficulty of the task. But the truth is they lost their own minds. The first step toward indestructibility is confronting this battle daily. Begin each morning by identifying the thought most likely to sabotage you. Write it down. Face it before it faces you. Command your response before it has the chance to control you. This is training your inner battlefield. As you repeat this, you'll notice a shift. Instead of being ambushed by doubt in the middle of action, you'll have already disarmed it at dawn. Your choices will carry weight, not because they're easy, but because your mind no longer scatters under pressure. The warrior who dominates his own mind carries a weapon sharper than any sword. His actions are steady, his presence unshaken. Musashi knew, before conquering the world, you must first conquer yourself. 2. Break free from the comfort trap. Musashi lived in conditions most would call unbearable. He slept on the ground, walked miles in storms, and ate rice with water when nothing else was available. To outsiders, this looked like poverty. To him, it was training. He wasn't chasing hardship for its own sake. He was proving that neither comfort nor pain had any power over his mind. This was the secret. If comfort could not seduce him and discomfort could not crush him, then nothing outside himself could dictate his way. Musashi's strength was not in avoiding extremes, but in meeting both with the same steady state. That stability was his true armor. Now contrast this with modern society. We are addicted to comfort. The room is too warm? We adjust the thermostat. Bored? Entertainment in seconds. Hungry? Food at the door in minutes. We live in a world where even slight discomfort feels unbearable. And when real challenges arrive, we collapse because we've trained ourselves only to live softly. To break this weakness, you must practice voluntary discomfort. Take the cold shower even when you don't want to. Sleep without the softest bed for a night. Eat simply, even when luxury is available. The goal is not misery. The goal is to remain the same person in both ease and hardship. The training works because it reveals how fragile comfort makes you. Each time you choose discomfort, you carve a new layer of resilience. Soon, what once felt unbearable becomes normal. Your tolerance for life expands while others shrink into fragility. When comfort can't tempt you and discomfort can't defeat you, you become untouchable. That is why Musashi never sought luxury. Not because he couldn't have it, but because he refused to let it own him. 3. The 1,000 days of repetition. Musashi wrote that it takes 1,000 days to develop and 10,000 to master. This was not poetry. It was mathematics of the spirit. He proved it by practicing the same downward cut with his sword thousands of times. No shortcuts, no search for novelty, just relentless repetition until the act was no longer practice, but nature. He knew that identity is carved not by what you intend to do, but by what you repeat every day. After years of this, his strikes carried not only skill, but inevitability. His actions were expressions of who he had become, not just things he did. Modern culture despises repetition. People chase new methods, new hacks, new challenges. They begin dozens of things, but never stay long enough for mastery. This addiction to variety ensures that nothing ever becomes part of who they are. That is why their strength fades as quickly as their enthusiasm. The protocol is simple but brutal. Choose one practice and commit to it for 1,000 days. One way of facing criticism, one method of focus, one daily ritual of discipline, and then repeat it without fail. If you miss a day, you start again. This is not punishment. It is proof of seriousness. At first, it will feel forced. But somewhere around day 1,000, the practice ceases to be external. It becomes your identity. You will no longer need motivation to do it, any more than you need motivation to breathe. This is why Musashi was unbreakable. His constancy wasn't inspiration. It was identity forged in repetition. He became the embodiment of his training, and that cannot be undone. 4. Turn failure into fuel. Musashi's power was not built on perfection. It was built on return. He knew failure was inevitable. Missed strikes, lost focus, moments of weakness. But he also knew that failure only defeats those who stay down. His strength was in rising instantly, without shame or hesitation. Most people today destroy themselves not by falling, but by refusing to rise. One broken routine becomes abandonment. One missed day becomes quitting. They let guilt and perfectionism convince them that a single failure erases all progress. In truth, it is not failure that ruins them. It is the drama they attach to it. Musashi stripped failure of its poison by returning immediately. No long pauses, no excuses. If he drifted, he came back at once. This discipline of return kept him on the path, while others abandoned theirs. The protocol for you is the rule of immediate return. If you break once, correct immediately. Miss the gym in the morning? Go at night. Eat poorly at lunch? Eat clean at dinner. Skip meditation today? Do it tomorrow morning before anything else. The speed of your return defines your resilience. As you practice this, guilt loses its grip. You realize perfection was never the goal. Persistence is. By refusing to let failure spread into tomorrow, you turn every mistake into fuel for your consistency. Indestructibility is not never falling. It is rising faster each time you do. That is how Musashi lived, and it is the only way to keep walking without end. 5. Respect all, depend on none. Musashi studied widely. He entered temples, listened to monks, sparred with rivals. He respected knowledge wherever he found it. But he never surrendered to any school, master, or method. He walked away once he had learned what he needed. His independence kept him free, and his freedom kept him strong. Dependency is the hidden weakness of modern minds. People rely on coaches, apps, supplements, or routines to function. They believe they cannot perform without these external crutches. And when the crutch breaks, so do they. Their strength was never their own. It belonged to the tool. Musashi would have seen this as dangerous. Tools are useful. Teachers are valuable. Systems can guide. But dependence is slavery. If you cannot perform without them, then you are not strong. You are fragile dressed as strong. Your protocol. Conduct a self-reliance audit. Write down every tool, habit, or person you think you need to succeed. Then remove one for a week. Work without it. Notice your discomfort. That resistance shows you where you are chained. Train until you break the chain. Over time, you will discover the paradox Musashi lived by. You can respect everything, learn from anyone, and use any system. But if you depend on nothing, your strength comes from within. That is what makes it unbreakable. 6. Stay hungry forever. Success destroys more people than failure. It whispers comfort, telling you that you've done enough, that you've arrived. The moment you believe this, Your discipline fades and decline begins. Musashi never allowed himself that illusion. Even undefeated after decades of duels, at 50 years old, he wrote, "I have not yet reached away, 60 victories, and still a student." This humility preserved his hunger and sharpened his edge long after others had dulled. Modern life seduces you into arrogance quickly. A few weeks of discipline, a handful of visible results, and you already relax. You skip the system that built you. You lose more in 1 month of comfort than you gained in 3 months of effort. This cycle repeats endlessly, keeping you fragile. The way out is deliberate humility. Once a month, seek someone whose strength eclipses yours. Study them. Feel inadequate again. Let that discomfort guide you forward. Hunger is not weakness. It is the compass that keeps you growing. When you convince yourself that you've arrived, you are already falling. Musashi's secret was eternal hunger. He remained curious, open, humble, and unsatisfied. Not because he lacked victories, but because he refused to turn victories into prisons. The mind that never stops being a student is the mind that never breaks. Limits are not outside you. They live in your mind. And Musashi proved that when the mind becomes indestructible, the body follows. 6 principles carve that path. Dominate your inner battlefield. Break free from comfort. Repeat until identity is forged. Turn failure into fuel. Respect everything but depend on nothing, and stay hungry forever. Most will close this video and return to the same fragile patterns, waiting for motivation to strike again. But maybe you are different. Maybe you are ready to stop breaking at the first difficulty and build a mind that nothing can destroy. Do not wait for tomorrow. Choose one protocol today. A decision alone, a voluntary discomfort, a 1,000-day habit, an immediate return, 1 step without a crutch, or an act of humility. Just one. The path is here. It does not demand perfection. It demands persistence. Become indestructible. Not because the world is easy, but because you will no longer break.